Hey, we've got a really interesting show today. We are going to be talking about Vanderburgh County politics and the one guy who beat the challenge to his candidacy with the Vanderburgh County Republican Party. That and more coming right up on This Week in Evansville. Hi, I'm Johnny Kincaid. Thanks for taking a little time to join us. I think you're going to want to stick around through this entire show so that you hear what Michael Daugherty has to say. He's kind of in the middle of some of this controversy that's been brewing with the Republican Party in Vanderburgh County. The election board met in Vanderburgh County and actually all around the state. The election boards have met, and there were a lot of challenges filed on candidacy around the state of Indiana. Especially the Republican Party seemed to be doing more of this than the Democratic Party. And the challenges were primarily based on Indiana state law that's been in effect for, I guess, about 3 years or so, that says that in order to be eligible to run as a Republican, you have to have voted the last two primary elections that you voted in had to be Republican tickets that you drew in those primaries. And same thing on the Democrat side. And apparently there were some candidates that signed up that didn't meet those qualifications. So they were challenged. And in Vanderburgh County, Mike Duckworth, our Vanderburgh County Republican chairman, filed a dozen challenges to candidates, but he also signed waivers on some candidates that allow them to run even though they don't meet that voting requirement. So people were up in arms. And when that election board met, man, it was a tense room and people up in arms, and they came in and people were ready to have at it. And what happened was citizens filed challenges to the waivers that were issued by Chairman Duckworth. So those were the first people that they dealt with. And Amy Canterbury, who is running for county commission, she voted Democrat in 2022. So her candidacy was being challenged by citizens because Duckworth signed off on her waiver for that. One of those speakers was Ruth Bays addressing this issue.
My question is, if Ms. Canterbury wants to be a candidate, why doesn't she wait until she qualifies? This is just a very recent election. I don't know if she's Republican or Democrat. And you're wanting to put her down as a commissioner. And that's kind of a major office. Why can't we wait and make sure that's who she is? Yes, she may have helped in the Republican primary, this and that and whatever, but so do a lot of rhinos do that. So I'm concerned that it is not being, the waivers are not being put across the board. They are given to certain people with whom you have friendship.
Now, one of the other challenges that was made was Mike Boatman. Listen to the deal that he tries to work out with Mike Duckworth.
I'm challenging Chino Rivera and Matis Rivera. This law is not being, I know it's the law, but it's not being fairly, Mr. Duckworth can pick and choose who he wants on the ballot or not. Just like he's running, the person he's running against in PC, he's challenging 12 people. I will be willing to drop my challenges, and Mr. Duckworth would drop all of his. Let the voters choose. It's not right, to pick and choose. Okay, Chino, I guess his voter registration is Alexis. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right. Rivera Quaintway. He has only voted in the 2016 general election and the 2023 primary and the general election. He don't need to two primary rule. Matis Rivera, she don't meet the two primary rule. She voted Democrat in 2016. I understand the intention of the law, to keep the other party from being on the ballot of the other party. But the authority they give to Mr. Duckworth, he can pick and choose. Like I'm sure he signed a waiver for Mr. Chino and Mates, but on the other ones, he's challenging them because they didn't meet the two primary rule. So I'm just saying, based on their voting records, they should be taken off the ballot. But I'll be willing to withdraw all my challenges of Mr. Duckworth. Will you do that, Mr. Duckworth? Drop your challenges?
I will not.
So you like to pick and choose who you want?
Following the law.
Follow the law? All right.
So right after Mike Duckworth said no to the deal, then Mates Rivera got up and spoke herself on her own behalf.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mates Rivera. Like Mr. Boatman said, I did vote in 2016 as a Democrat. I was younger. As you grow older, own a business, have a family, your ideals change. And I have always considered myself a conservative. I am a conservative. Last year, I was a candidate for City Council 2nd Ward. I worked in the Republican Party with the Republican Party. And I think I paid my dues. I respect anyone's decision here, but I will like to say my allegiance is to the Republican Party, not to one specific person. I will always be a Republican and I will continue to be a Republican. And if I am allowed to be a PC, I will do my best to serve that position correctly and with honesty.
So this kind of went on and on for actually a 2-hour meeting, on and on and on, and people would stand up, and the county chairperson said nothing to any of these people, didn't ask them questions, didn't say anything really outside of rejecting the deal from Mike Boatman, then maybe occasionally just told people that they should have come and asked him before they decided to try to run. They have to go and kiss the ring of the party boss. Kind of weird. Now, one of the people that Duckworth was challenging was Michael Daugherty. And you remember Michael was the person who ran on the Libertarian ticket for mayor just last year. So it doesn't surprise me that there was a challenge there for Michael. When they looked up his voting record, they found that the only time he hadn't voted Republican was at one time when he voted nonpartisan. And I'm not sure how that came into play as a way to vote in a primary, but somehow nonpartisan shows up in his voting record. And so that was a point of discussion. Michael came armed. He was ready to go because he had an attorney. David Jones was his attorney. And here's Attorney Jones making the case for Michael Daugherty.
Michael Daugherty, Jay. Anybody want to address the board on Mr. Daugherty's challenge by Mike Duckworth?
Yes. Dave Jones, Jones Wallace. The challenge was not based on any statutory position. The challenge was simply stated on the filing challenge, Libertarian candidate in 2023 mayoral election. That's not a valid basis for a challenge under the statute. And Carla, you've got his voting record?
Yes.
And how many consecutive Republican primaries has he voted in?
Consecutive, there were 2, but there is a nonpartisan in the middle.
As Ms. Schultz previously had an objection on 2 bases, this one also has 2 bases. It has the fails to meet the 2 most recent 2 primaries, as well as he is not a candidate in good standing because he was a Libertarian candidate in 2023 mayoral election. If you look at the Indiana Republican State Committee rules, it states at 3.3, no person shall be eligible for election for the office of precinct committeeman or the appointment of the office of precinct committeeman or vice precinct committeeman unless the individual is a qualified elector of the precinct, and is a qualified primary Republican. A qualified primary Republican is defined as a voter who has cast Republican Party ballot at the two most recent primary elections in Indiana, which the voter voted, and who is a Republican in good standing. A Republican in good standing is defined at 1-25 as a Republican who supports Republican nominees and who does not actively or openly support another candidate against a Republican nominee. It's indisputable by him being a Libertarian candidate in the 2023 mayoral election. He did not support the Republican nominee. Therefore, he is not a Republican in good standing and is not eligible to be a precinct committeeman.
I think what's important here is that the application of the law should be fairly and uniformly applied. And I think that's the real issue here. This statute's not being uniformly applied and hasn't been. It's simply the rule of bosses who can play any game they want as long as they can bring themselves within the language of the statute.
So that's David Jones. He's the attorney for Michael Daugherty. And, one of the things he says in there is that we need to uniformly apply these rules. And I think that's a very true statement about equal protection. So, joining us now is Michael Daugherty. And, Michael is, everybody's finding out who Michael Daugherty is these days, right?
Yes.
This whole thing on the way that these challenges have been applied from, and it's not just Evansville; it's been statewide. It's but in the Republican Party primarily, there's been just this huge number of challenges to candidates wanting to run in the primary. So you kind of fell into that mass. I don't know. It's like that became the consciousness of the Republican Party for Indiana or something. But so you kind of got caught in that. And what did you think when the vote came down about the challenge to your candidacy?
Hearing arguments on both sides, it was back and forth. I was sitting there listening, and I was like, oh, they're going to go against me. They're going to go with me. And David Jones made the perfect argument that they were trying to apply the Republican Party rules as state law. And state law is very clear, and that is what won on my side in this case. And the statement that was made about the party bosses and how they're looked at as party bosses because they just boss people around. They try to control everything in the narrative. That is what really hit home with me, because you see it happening on the Democrat side too. Cheryl Schultz is using her power to remove people so there aren't contested races in the primary. And you have Mike Duckworth that is putting up challenges to incumbent Republicans and intentionally fracturing the Republican Party. And utilizing Republican rules instead of state law. And it caught up with him this time. And he's realized that I'm a fighter. I'm not one to cower down and be bullied by the Republican Party boss.
Yeah, see, and I really wonder what's up with the idea that you're going to take and you're going to provide a waiver to a candidate who wants to take on an incumbent of your party.
As a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got this person who voted as a Democrat. They want to take on the incumbent Republican who has a record of voting Republican. But it's because they don't agree with some of the things that she's done, stands that she's taken, so on down the line. But, if you're going to allow somebody to primary somebody, get somebody who is qualified, right?
Who meets the definitions of your own party. Not somebody that has voted in a Democrat primary as their most recent voting. And as I sit there and I listen to Mike Duckworth and his attorney at the hearings, it's these rules are for thee, not for me. And he wants to apply those rules and set a precedent but then he wants to violate them because, oh, well, I want to run Amy Canterbury against Cheryl Musgrave,
Right.
who's the incumbent. And Amy Canterbury, as you can see from her voting record, has voted Democrat in the most recent election. So it is very troubling that the head of the Republican Party here in Vanderburgh County would do something like that to the citizens of Evansville.
Well, and I think that every Republican office holder should be looking over their shoulders, because if the party is going to come after you as a member of the party, then every candidate should be concerned about that, or every elected official.
Right. And you, in the past, in other counties, in other areas, you have a Republican Party or any party chairman that wants to protect the incumbents, especially ones that have done great jobs for the community, but not in this case. And that's where it's personal. It's been personal the entire time with Winnicky against Musgrave, and it just has to stop. It's fracturing the party, and the Republican Party chair, any party chair, should be about unity. One of the things I learned as you sat through the hearings, Mike Duckworth didn't reach out to a single person that applied as a precinct committeeman. You had Mr. Boone come in, and he was shocked, had no idea what was going on. A true conservative that wanted to serve, and he didn't meet the criteria.
Yeah.
And Duckworth just sat there behind his attorney and said, I'm following the law. But then when it come to me, he didn't want to follow the law. I want to follow my own principles, my own Republican Party rules.
Yeah. And it really is kind of like, if you're going to run for something, you need to come in and kiss the ring of the party chair. The party boss needs you to
kneel down and kiss my ring is Mike Duckworth's mentality.
And again, he's not alone in that, because I heard from other counties that the same sort of, and it's that same attitude, and it's and what they don't get through their head is that people come do things for political party as volunteers, right? So, that's what we have to always bear in mind as a party, is that we have to do, we just absolutely have to start treating people the way that people should be treated, right? And, I recruited some people. I had no idea what the rules were. And I apologize to the people that I feel like I have to apologize for my party, because my party didn't make me aware of what the rules were in that, and certainly not the new candidates. How much would it cost for the Republican Party to have a stack of brochures at the elections office that says, here are the rules, right? So that when somebody comes in, because you think of, I'm going to just apply for PC, or I'm just applying for a convention delegate. Right? How much would it cost for them to have something there that tells you what the requirements are that you need to meet for that?
Very, very little. And what would it cost for the party chair to reach out to somebody that's applied and say, hey, come talk to me. Let's meet. Let's talk about your ideas, your values, and what you can do to help move the party forward. No, instead, they want to sit behind an attorney and just kick people off. And again, I said it before. Mr. Boone said it so eloquently that this should have been handled so much differently. You want to be a party of welcoming new members. You want to open up, and you want to be. You want the voters to understand, and then you come to a table, and you have all these people with attorneys, and they're just like, "Yeah, you're out." I was flabbergasted at the people that were just bounced off just because the party bosses, the chairs, say, "Well, I've never met you." It's asinine.
Yeah. You have to know me in order to do this. The quote from Mr. Boone was, "If you want to grow the party, don't put up obstacles."
Yes,
and that's so right. So and there's an undercurrent in Indiana as a whole. Certainly Vanderburgh County, but statewide, there's this undercurrent within the party of people who, and it's primarily folks on the conservative wing, that are really of the belief that change has to happen, that some things have to take place. So statewide, the party is worried about convention delegates. At least I believe that. That they're afraid that their mainstream beliefs aren't going to be upheld, and instead this conservative wing is going to exert some power because they did it before, right? So if they've done it before, they very possibly could come back in this convention and exert the will of the conservatives as opposed to the will. And I hate using the term rhino, but the more left-leaning people in the party that are in those positions of control.
And Mike Duckworth said that he resented being called a rhino. But when you're the head of the Republican Party and you're putting up 2 Democrats that have Democrat voting records, what's the definition of a rhino? Mm-hmm. It's there.
Okay, so now we'll get to the real reason why we called you here today is because there's an email that came from you that went to, 150 or so people in the party, primarily precinct committeemen.
Yes.
And what are you looking to achieve out of that note?
Basically that, just opening everybody's eyes. I wanted, most of them weren't at the election hearings. Mm-hmm. And I wanted them to understand what is happening in our party, why we're so fractured, and why we can't grow the party, because my eyes were opened. I was very sad to listen to Mr. Boone's comment, Glenna's comment, and people wanting to join our party and wanting to work and fight, and then just being completely overridden and just saying, yeah, you're not good enough because you didn't meet me, you didn't come in, kiss the ring type mentality. That's not what we should be. Mm-hmm. Mike Duckworth, as party chair, just lost every single office in the 2023 election, and he continues to push voters and members and supporters away. So the whole premise behind the email is we need party unity. The Democrat Party has shown locally that that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Not that I agree with the Democrat chair kicking people off and them only running one candidate in the primary so that they don't fracture the party. But Mike Duckworth's move on running Democrat candidates against incumbents, there's nothing more challenging and more fracturing to a party than doing that. So the email was just to inform everybody of what happened. I wish, and I believe there is audio and video of Mr. Boone, but that needs to be the face of the Republican Party going forward. We need to be welcoming. Yep. We need to remove obstacles. We need help because Mike Duckworth just got steamrolled in 2023 with over $1 million in campaign funds and lost everything. And
you've brought up, we've talked about Mr. Boone, and actually I do have a clip of him.
Okay, great.
So let's go ahead and see what this guy makes perfectly good sense.
Yes.
So check this out.
Talk to some guys and they say, hey, we got a, what's that, precinct committee and position open? Why don't you try running? But by me sitting here listening to you guys, you got laws here, 2 precinct law here that I don't think they knew about it. So as I sign up, I get the letter in the mail saying that he's contesting my candidacy because you got to vote in 2 Republican precincts. I'm not fighting that. Hey, it's y'all law. I respect that. Only thing my problem is with that is that don't sound too welcoming. And if you want to grow something, don't put up obstacles. Put down obstacles and get people to join you. You cannot demand loyalty from somebody until you know them. So if you want to grow as a party, invite people, be more welcoming. Now, I respect the law and I'm not going to challenge it. And I thank y'all for letting me be here and I'm still going to vote Republican. But the problem you having, I don't think a lot of people know about that law. That's a new law, right? How long the law been in existence?
The 2 primary law went into effect in 2021.
That's 2 years.
One
That's
primary
new.
law.
It was 1 before that, but yeah.
So that's basically 2 years. That's basically new.
Yes.
And the average voter don't vote in primaries. They vote in general elections. You know, and the other side, they're going to register the cat and the dog if they have to. So I'm just saying, you know, kind of reconsider that if you want your party to grow. Thanks for hearing me.
Now, here's the The other thing, after seeing that clip again, I'm just that much more impressed. But for anybody who really wants to take the deep dive on that hearing, it was a 2-hour-long hearing. And anybody who wants to actually know everything that went on at that meeting, we'll put a link in the show notes so that you can watch the entire, because Ken Colbert recorded the entire thing. So you can actually see it unedited straight through the entire 2-hour meeting online if you want to check that out. And that, again, the link's in our show notes. So what do you see next? Now, county chair people will be up for election in 2025,
March
correct?
2025, yes.
March 2025. So roughly a year from now is where, in the natural course of events, we would see the possible change coming with, and there are right now several groups that have formed within the Republican Party. We've got these little factions out there. And they're all kind of working on figuring out who they want to see in leadership. And that's not good for the current county chair when you've got groups within the party that are going, well, who do we think should become, the next chair?
Yeah. And the good news is, there's 5 separate factions, 4 of the 5 see Duckworth as out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good to hear. But those 4 of the 5 factions, everybody needs to come together and choose somebody that will unite the party, that will be a leader and bring people together and grow the local party. Not just, you said it at the beginning, you're not getting the messages from the Republican Party. That's because they're not sending anything out.
Mm-hmm.
They're not having events. They're not rallying voters to come out and stand up.
Yeah, if you look at, I'll put in a plug for the Vanderburgh County Democrats here. Go to their website and look at what they do there with the public face they put out there. They actually put out a pretty welcoming kind of message there. They're very upfront about what their platform is. And so, I go to the page, I see, oh man, that looks pretty welcoming. I can read their platform right then and there and determine, are these people that I want to associate with, or do I need to keep looking at what political parties are up to? They've done a good job, and they've done a good job of mobilizing people to vote. Mm-hmm. And it's something that it takes some time to do that. You've got to build a database. You've got to, do all of these things. But it's not huge time. You can send form letters, and honestly, people don't know the difference. You can send a letter, dear, with the little field there for the person's first name to customize it. And you can do that all day long and just keep touching people as often as you can.
You can reach out to volunteers of the party to help do that. You don't have to do that with your executive committee.
Right.
You can do it automated by emails.
Mm-hmm.
There's huge email lists out there. And you can grow that party very easily and with little effort. But, I'll say this. You talked about the fear of losing control, and they don't want to grow the party because the fear of losing the majority and control of what they have built. Mm-hmm. That right there is the fear of growing the Republican Party on Mike Duckworth's part. He does not want to lose control.
Yeah. And if I'm just going to say this to any of the party chairmen that might tune this thing in, okay? If you've got the technology that allows you to look at every single person's voting record in the entire county, then you've got the technology to be able to send notes to those people who are strong Republicans that should be showing up at events and activities, but currently aren't. You've got the ability to reach out to those people, and you're not doing it. It's that simple.
Yes.
Vanderburgh's not the weirdest county in the bunch for these challenges. I want to give a special little jab to Steuben County, where the county chair in Steuben County, among the challenges, he challenged 4 candidates. One of those 4 was the lady who heads up the Steuben County Republican Women's Group. And she's been doing it for like 2 decades, I believe. And he challenged her.
Yeah.
Holy cow. If he didn't know just looking at that name that that's the person who he sees on a monthly basis at least, right?
Right.
Something is terribly wrong. So it's kind of endemic, and there are lots of, I think, changes to come.
And it goes back to control. These party chairs have had control for so long. So if somebody, and I don't know all the details in Steuben County, but if that person challenged the leader, of course he's going to use his or her position of power to attack that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's happened here in Vanderburgh County.
Mm-hmm. So up ahead, and I guess we should actually, in full disclosure, we should actually say that part of the challenge on your candidacy was the fact that you ran for mayor as a libertarian. Your political beliefs are what?
My values have never changed. I've been a true conservative my entire life. I've ran before in an election as a Republican. I wanted to run as a Republican in the mayor's race. And Mike Duckworth, as he's told many other candidates, says, you're not well enough known. You don't have name recognition. So what choices did I have? I had, 2 choices. I could run as an independent. I could sit and wait until I'm worthy enough in Mike Duckworth's eyes to run. Or, I can get up and I can challenge him. And I feel that they definitely know my name now. I did it on a shoestring budget.
Mm-hmm.
And if that isn't worthy of sharing my values and running as a candidate on a small percentage of what the other Republican did, then so be it. But, my values have stayed consistent. You can refer to Mr. Langhorne's article that he wrote on my history in the Courier and Press, and it will not waver going forward.
The worst thing that we can do is allow ourselves to get so fractured and so disgruntled that we take ourselves out of the process. So if you were one of those people who wanted to run and you got challenged, or if you're one of just one of those people who is hearing this grumbling coming from people within the party, don't let that take you out of the game. We can easily sit back and say, 8th congressional district, we are the most Republican district in the country, right? So we're an R plus 19, right? So, oh my gosh, this is, whoever, for example, on the congressional race, whoever wins the Republican primary is almost a shoo-in for that office.
Yes.
But not if the Republicans stay home. Not if we allow ourselves to become disgruntled with the process to the point where we don't participate. We still have to be in the game. Simple as that. The same thing applies to the gubernatorial race. And whoever wins the Republican primary is very likely to become our next governor. But we can't take it for granted. We need to still be vital, just active as can be in this party in order to make sure that we grow our base, and that there are a lot of people who kind of closet conservatives out there, that if the stronger we become as a conservative movement, the more those people who are closeted are going to be willing to come out and join in too. So we don't want to let the infighting tear the party apart.
Right.
And we're really kind of teetering at a brink on the Republican Party locally, and at a time, and I think you say this in your email that you sent out, that it's time to bring everybody together.
Yes.
And that's what we're really looking for.
Yes.
Michael, thank you so much
for having me.
Well, appreciate you coming in. Appreciate your time. And thank you for tuning in and taking a little time to be here with us. I want to remind you, we've got Oh man, if we got a lineup of people coming up here, the mayor is going to be joining us soon to talk about her first 60 days in office. And I'm looking for questions. You can put a question that you want me to ask the mayor down in the comments. I'll be happy to ask her some of the questions that we get in. Todd Rokita is going to be joining us here soon, and Christy Risk, candidate for 8th District congressional seat. We're going to be getting the gubernatorial candidates in. So a really packed lineup. That means you really want to make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you get notified about each episode as they come out. I'm Johnny Kincaid. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Evansville.